Commander Vex'ara stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Crimson Talon, watching the small blue planet grow larger on the view screen. Her 6 arms crossed in what passed for satisfaction among the Zephyrian Empire's elite. 3 eyes gleamed with predatory anticipation while her crystalline skin shimmered with barely contained arrogance. "Pathetic," she muttered, her voice carrying the musical quality of breaking glass. "This is what the galaxy calls Earth. This insignificant mud ball is supposed to be our next conquest?" Her second-in-command, Lieutenant QX Tell, nervously adjusted his uniform. "Commander, the intelligence report suggests the humans have developed some rudimentary space defenses. Perhaps we should." Silence. Vex'ara's voice cracked like a whip. "Rudimentary? These mammals barely crawled out of their caves a few thousand cycles ago. They're still using chemical propulsion, for crying out loud. My grandmother's leisure yacht has better weapons than their entire fleet." She gestured dismissively at the tactical display showing Earth's orbital defenses. A few scattered space stations, some antique satellites, and what appeared to be their idea of a warship, a clunky metal contraption that looked like it was held together with hopes and prayers. "The humans call this a dreadnought," Vex'ara said, pointing to the largest human vessel. "I've seen cargo containers with more intimidating designs. Look at it, it's practically rectangular. Do they even understand aerodynamics?" The bridge crew of the Crimson Talon chuckled obediently. They'd learned long ago that laughing at the commander's jokes was essential for career advancement, and continued breathing. "Commander," Tell ventured again, "what about their ground forces? The reports mention something called military—" "Oh, please," Vex'ara interrupted, her 3 eyes rolling in perfect synchronization. "Have you seen their soldiers? They wear fabric uniforms." "Fabric? Not energy shields, not molecular armor, just woven plant fibers. And they carry projectile weapons that fire tiny metal pellets. It's like watching children play with toys." She pulled up a holographic display showing various human military units. "Look at this one. They call him Captain Jake Martinez. Apparently he's one of their best pilots. He's covered in primitive body art and flies a machine that looks like it was assembled by blind mechanics having a bad day." The hologram showed a human male with dark hair, wearing what appeared to be a military flight suit. His arms were covered in colorful tattoos, and he had a cocky grin that somehow managed to look both confident and completely oblivious to the impending doom heading his way. "The humans have a saying," Vex'ara continued, her voice dripping with condescension. "They call it David versus Goliath. Apparently it's about a small weakling defeating a giant through luck and primitive weapons. How quaint. They actually believe such fairy tales." She turned to address her entire bridge crew. "Today we'll show them what happens when fairy tales meet reality. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 47 star systems. We've defeated species with energy manipulation, hive minds, and technological advancement beyond human comprehension. And now we're supposed to be challenged by these soft-skinned mammals who haven't even figured out faster than light travel?" The crew erupted in another round of dutiful laughter. "Prepare the invasion fleet," Vex'ara commanded. "I want this over before lunch. After we demonstrate our superiority, the humans will surrender faster than you can say Intergalactic War Crimes Tribunal." As the massive Zephyrian fleet approached Earth's outer defenses, Vex'ara couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. This was going to be too easy. Where was the challenge? Where was the glory in defeating such obviously inferior beings? She had no idea that in a few hours she'd be questioning everything she thought she knew about weakness, strength, and the terrifying creativity of a species that had somehow managed to survive on a planet actively trying to kill them. The communication array crackled to life as Vex'ara prepared to deliver her standard surrender demand. She'd given this speech dozens of times to dozens of species, and it never got old. The look of terror, the desperate pleas for mercy, the inevitable collapse of their pathetic resistance, it was also predictable. "People of Earth." She began, her voice broadcasting across every communication channel on the planet. "I am Commander Vex'ara of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been selected for incorporation into our glorious dominion. You have 30 minutes to surrender unconditionally, or we will demonstrate the futility of resistance. She paused dramatically, waiting for the usual response: panicked screaming, desperate negotiations, maybe some dignified but doomed defiance. Instead, her communication officer looked confused. "Commander, we're receiving a response from Earth's military command." "Excellent. Put it through." The view screen flickered, and suddenly Vex'ara was looking at a human wearing what appeared to be a military uniform decorated with colorful ribbons. The human was drinking something from a ceramic mug and looked remarkably unbothered. Yeah, hi there," the human said casually. "This is General Patricia Wells, Earth Defense Force. So, you're the aliens everyone's been talking about. Got to say, your ships look pretty cool, very intimidating. Real sci-fi movie stuff." Vex'ara blinked all three eyes. Did you understand what I just said? We're invading your planet." "Oh yeah, we got that," General Wells replied, taking another sip from her mug. "Invasion resistance is futile. Incorporate into your empire. The whole 9 yards. Standard alien invasion template. Very professional." "Then why aren't you surrendering?" "Well, see, here's the thing," the general continued, apparently unfazed by having this conversation with the three-eyed alien commander. "We kind of talked it over, and we're thinking maybe not today. Rain check on the whole conquest thing?" Vex'ara felt her crystalline skin shift from confident blue to confused purple. "Rain check? This is not a social gathering. This is a military conquest." Right, totally understand. Very serious business. But here's the deal, it's Monday morning, and most of our guys haven't had their coffee yet. Could you maybe circle back on Wednesday? We'll be much more ready to resist futilely then." The bridge of the Crimson Talon fell silent. In 47 previous conquests, this had never happened. Vex'ara had prepared for desperate last stands, for noble sacrifices, for tragic heroism. She had not prepared for scheduling conflicts. "You're mocking me," Vex'ara said, her voice dangerously low. "Not at all," General Wells replied cheerfully. "We're just trying to manage expectations here. You want a good invasion experience, we want to provide quality resistance. It's a win-win." "Back," Vex'ara commanded through gritted teeth. "All units, commence Operation Inevitable Victory." The Zephyrian fleet moved forward, their advanced weapons systems charging up. Earth's defenses, such as they were, scrambled to respond. And that's when things got weird. The human ships moved in patterns that defied all military logic. Instead of forming defensive lines or tactical formations, they seemed to be improvising. One group of fighters was playing what appeared to be a game of tag with Zephyrian interceptors. Another squadron was attempting to ram a massive alien cruiser while screaming something about Leroy Jenkins over their communications. "What are they doing?" Kixtel asked, staring at the tactical display in bewilderment. "I have no idea," Vex'ara admitted. "Their tactics make no sense. They're not following any recognizable military doctrine. And yet, somehow, the chaos was working. The human fighters were too unpredictable for the Zephyrian targeting systems. Their ships were so primitive that advanced alien weapons kept overcompensating, missing entirely because they were programmed to hit sophisticated targets, but not flying scrap metal held together by determination and prayer." In the middle of this cosmic comedy, one human fighter broke through the alien lines. It was piloted by that tattooed human from the intelligence reports, Captain Jake Martinez. His ship was smoking, making sounds that suggested imminent mechanical failure, and somehow still accelerating toward the Zephyrian flagship. "Is he trying to ram us?" Kixtel asked. "Impossible," Vex'ara replied. "No species is that suicidal." Jake's ship suddenly broke apart in what looked like a catastrophic failure. As debris scattered across space, Vex'ara allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Finally, some sensible results. Then her ship's hull clanged and alarms started blaring. Security reported that somehow, impossibly, a human had breached their defenses and was now aboard the Crimson Talon. "How?" Vex'ara demanded. He appears to have hidden in the debris from his destroyed ship, the security chief reported. He's wearing some kind of primitive spacesuit and carrying what looks like a projectile weapon. Bring him to me, Vex'ara commanded. I want to interrogate this suicidal fool personally. 20 minutes later, Captain Jake Martinez was escorted onto the bridge, still wearing his battered spacesuit and that infuriating cocky grin. He looked around at the advanced alien technology with the expression of a tourist admiring architecture. Nice ship, he said conversationally. Very clean. Good lighting. I like what you've done with the place. Vex'ara stared at him, her three eyes narrowing. This was going to be fun. Vex'ara circled the captured human like a predator sizing up prey. Jake Martinez sat strapped to an interrogation chair, looking for all the world like he was waiting for a dentist appointment, rather than facing the wrath of an alien commander. So Jake said, glancing around the interrogation chamber, this is cozy, very retro sci-fi. I'm getting strong evil alien empire vibes. Did you guys study Earth movies, or is this just universal bad guy aesthetic? Silence. Vex'ara snapped. You will speak only when spoken to, human. Well, technically you just spoke to me, Jake pointed out helpfully. So I'm speaking. This is how conversations work. Vex'ara's crystalline skin shifted from purple to angry red. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I am Commander Vex'ara of the Zephyrian Empire. I have crushed civilizations that existed before your species learned to make fire. That's impressive, Jake nodded appreciatively. I once ate a sandwich that was older than some of our civilizations. Different scales, I guess. You mock me even now, facing certain death? I'm not mocking you, Jake replied seriously. I'm just trying to understand the whole evil alien conqueror thing. Is this like a career path for you guys? Did you go to evil commander school? Is there a pension plan? Vex'ara activated a holographic display showing various torture devices. Perhaps pain will loosen your tongue and teach you proper respect. Ooh, fancy, Jake said, examining the display. Very thorough. I like the one that looks like a blender. That's creative. Though I have to ask, is all this really necessary? I mean, what do you want to know? Earth's military secrets. Our strategic weaknesses? I can save you some time here. Finally, some cooperation, Vex'ara said, leaning forward. Tell me about your planet's defenses. Well, our main strategy is apparently to do random stuff until something works, Jake said thoughtfully. Today's plan was try not to die. Yesterday's plan was figure out what those big ships are. Tomorrow's plan is probably clean up all the space debris. We're very adaptable. That's not a strategy, that's chaos. Yeah, that's what our enemies keep saying right before they lose. Vex'ara studied the human more carefully. That's when she noticed his arms, covered in intricate tattoos visible through his torn flight suit. Primitive body art, as she'd expected. But something about the designs intrigued her. What are these markings? She asked, gesturing to his tattoos. Oh, these? Jake glanced down at his arms. Just some ink. Souvenirs, you might say. Souvenirs of what? Places I've been, things I've survived. You know, the usual. Vex'ara's scientific curiosity overcame her irritation. Understanding human culture might provide insights into their military capabilities. Explain them to me. Jake shrugged. Well, this one here is from when I survived a week in the Australian outback. That was fun. This one's from climbing Mount Everest. This little guy represents the time I went cave diving in Mexico and got lost for 6 hours. You consider these recreational activities? Sure, weekend warrior stuff. This one's from when I went skydiving and my main chute failed. This one's from shark diving in South Africa. Oh, and this beauty represents the time I accidentally ate fugu that wasn't prepared properly and spent 3 days in the hospital. Vex'ara stared at the tattoos, her mind struggling to process what she was hearing. You're telling me that you voluntarily participated in activities that could have killed you? For entertainment? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds kind of crazy, Jake admitted. But yeah, that's the general idea. Life's short, might as well make it interesting. And you survived all of these death challenges? Obviously, or I wouldn't be here to tell you about them. Vex'ara activated her personal research terminal, suddenly very interested in learning more about this human's planet. Tell me about this Australia place. Australia? Oh, that's a fun continent. Everything there is trying to kill you. Spiders the size of dinner plates, snakes that can drop you in minutes, crocodiles that'll eat your whole family, jellyfish that are basically transparent death. And don't even get me started on the drop bears. Drop bears? Vicious little marsupials that drop out of trees onto unsuspecting tourists. Nasty creatures. Vex'ara's research terminal began displaying information about Earth's wildlife, and her three eyes widened in horror. These creatures, they're all from your planet? Oh, that's just Australia. Wait until you hear about the deep ocean stuff, or the Amazon rainforest, or basically anywhere humans decided to live. You're telling me your species evolved on a planet where the local wildlife is actively trying to kill you? Pretty much. Makes you tough, though. Character building. Vex'ara stared at the human, then at his tattoos, then at the research data streaming across her display. A terrible understanding was beginning to dawn on her. These tattoos, they're not decorative. They're battle scars. That's a pretty metal way to put it, Jake said approvingly. I like that. Battle scars. Mind if I steal that for my next tattoo? How many do you have? Jake looked down at his arms, counting. Visible ones? Maybe 40 or 50. I've got more on my back and chest. Oh, and legs, pretty much everywhere, really. 50 survival stories? Give or take. I mean, some of them are just from stupid stuff I did in college, but most of them are legitimate near-death experiences. Vex'ara felt her world beginning to tilt on its axis. And you said this was weekend warrior activities? Yeah, hobby stuff. Nothing too serious. I know guys who are way more hardcore than me. For the first time in her military career, Commander Vex'ara of the Zephyrian Empire began to suspect that she might have made a terrible mistake. Vex'ara's research terminal worked overtime as she dove deeper into Earth's database, her three eyes scanning through information that made less and less sense with each passing moment. The human Jake sat patiently in his restraints, occasionally offering helpful commentary that only made things worse. So this tattoo, she said, pointing to an intricate design on his left shoulder, what does it represent? Oh, that's from when I went free solo rock climbing in Yosemite. That's climbing without ropes, safety gear, or common sense. 5,000 feet straight up. Great views, terrible decision-making. And this one? She indicated a serpentine design wrapped around his forearm. Amazon expedition. Got lost for 2 weeks, ate things that probably shouldn't be eaten. Made friends with a jaguar who turned out to be less friendly than initially advertised. Good times. Vex'ara's skin had progressed from red to a sickly green color that indicated severe distress among her species. You're telling me you voluntarily entered a jungle filled with predators and survived by eating random vegetation? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds irresponsible, Jake said. But I had a field guide. Granted, it was mostly useless, but still. And this symbol here? She pointed to what looked like a stylized explosion. Volcano surfing in Guatemala. Turns out active lava flows are exactly as dangerous as they sound. Who knew? What? Vex'ara pulled up Earth's geological data. Your planet has over 1,500 active volcanoes, and you approach them recreationally? Sure. Some of the best skiing in the world is on volcanic slopes. Nothing like the thrill of potentially being incinerated to get the adrenaline pumping. But why? Vex'ara asked, her voice cracking with desperation. Why would you deliberately seek out dangerous situations? Jake considered the question seriously. I guess because they're there? I mean, what's the point of living if you're not really living, you know? No, I don't know. Vex'ara snapped. Every civilized species develops technology to avoid danger, to create safety, to eliminate risk. You people seem to have developed technology specifically to find new ways to almost die. Well, when you put it like that, Jake paused. Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually. Have you seen our extreme sports? Wingsuit flying, base jumping, big wave surfing, bull riding, ice climbing, deep sea diving, storm chasing. Storm chasing? Oh, that's where you drive toward the most dangerous weather patterns on the planet to get a better look. Tornadoes, hurricanes, that sort of thing. Vex'ara's research terminal chimed with new information. She'd requested data on Earth's weather patterns, and what she found made her question the sanity of the entire human species. Your planet regularly experiences weather events that can level cities, she said slowly. And you drive toward them? Well, somebody has to study them, Jake said reasonably. Plus, it's kind of pretty in a terrifying, potentially lethal way. In this Australia you mentioned, Vex'ara's voice trailed off as she scrolled through more data. Your research indicates that this continent contains over 20 of the world's most venomous snakes, the most aggressive spiders, predatory marsupials, and something called a cassowary that can disembowel a human with its feet. Yeah, cassowaries are jerks, Jake agreed. Beautiful birds, though. Really colorful right before they try to murder you. And people live there voluntarily? About 25 million people, last I checked. Great beaches, friendly people, excellent beer. You just have to watch out for the wildlife. And the weather. And the plants. Some of the plants are pretty murderous, too. Vex'ara brought up more data, her horror growing with each revelation. Box jellyfish. Blue-ringed octopus. Cone snails. Funnel-web spiders. Your planet's oceans are filled with creatures that can kill you in minutes. Yeah, but have you seen the coral reefs? Absolutely gorgeous. Totally worth the risk of horrible death. Worth the risk of, you people are insane. That's what my ex-wife used to say, Jake said cheerfully. Right before she took up bungee jumping. Vex'ara's research terminal chimed again. She'd been cross-referencing human recreational activities with fatality rates, and the results were beyond comprehension. You have an activity called free diving where you hold your breath and swim as deep as possible into the ocean without breathing apparatus. Yeah, that's fun. Really peaceful, right up until you pass out from oxygen deprivation. And ice swimming where you deliberately jump into freezing water. Great for the circulation. And building character. And something called parkour where you run through urban environments jumping off buildings. That's more of a young person's game, Jake said. I'm too old for that nonsense now. Too old? How old are you? 42. And you consider yourself too old for jumping off buildings but not too old for volcano surfing? Well, priorities change as you get older. You have to pick your potentially fatal hobbies more carefully. Vex'ara stared at the human, her mind reeling. Your tattoos. How many survival stories do you actually have? Jake looked thoughtful. Well, if we're counting just the ones that were genuinely life-threatening, maybe a couple hundred? I mean, I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. A couple hundred near-death experiences? Give or take. I don't count the minor stuff anymore. Like getting struck by lightning is only worth a tattoo if it's particularly memorable lightning. You've been struck by lightning multiple times? Just 3 times. Twice while mountain climbing, once while surfing. That last one was weird because I didn't even know you could get struck by lightning while surfing. Vex'ara's crystalline skin had progressed to a color that didn't exist in the standard Zephyrian emotional spectrum. And you said this was your weekend warrior collection? Yeah, hobby stuff. I mean, I'm not like those crazy professional extreme sports people. I've got a day job. What's your day job? Military test pilot. I evaluate experimental aircraft for combat readiness. So your profession involves testing potentially dangerous new flying machines? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds dangerous, Jake said. But somebody has to do it. Plus, the insurance is pretty good. Vex'ara sat down heavily in her command chair, her three eyes staring at the human with newfound understanding. "You're not primitive," she whispered. "You're not weak." "I mean, I work out," Jake said modestly. "You're terrifying," Vex'ara continued. "Your entire species is absolutely terrifying. You evolved on a planet that's actively trying to kill you. And instead of developing technology to escape, you develop technology to find new and creative ways to almost die." "That's a pretty accurate summary of human history," Jake admitted. "Though we also invented pizza, which I think balances things out." "And you do this for fun?" "Well, fun is subjective. I'd say it's more about testing yourself, pushing boundaries, seeing what you're capable of. Plus, it makes for great stories at parties." Vex'ara realized that everything she thought she knew about warfare, about conquest, about what made a species dangerous was completely wrong. The humans weren't weak. They were the most terrifyingly reckless species in the galaxy. And she'd just declared war on them. The realization hit Vex'ara like a meteorite impact. She'd been so focused on evaluating human technology and military doctrine that she'd completely missed the most important factor: the psychology of a species that treated mortal danger as entertainment. "Jake," she said slowly, "when your people heard about our invasion, what was their reaction?" "Oh, you mean besides the obvious not again response?" Jake scratched his head thoughtfully. "I think most people were pretty excited. It's been a boring year, you know. Pandemic's winding down, economies stabilizing, politics are relatively calm. Everyone was looking for something interesting to happen." "Excited?" "Sure. First contact with hostile aliens? That's like winning the lottery of interesting experiences. My buddy Steve is probably jealous I got captured first." Vex'ara felt her world tilt further off its axis. "You're treating this like a recreational activity." "Well, I mean, it kind of is at this point. I've survived everything from avalanches to food poisoning in Bangkok. Getting captured by aliens is just another item for the bucket list." "Bucket list?" "Mel? Oh, that's a human thing. It's a list of experiences you want to have before you die. Mine's pretty extensive. And getting captured by aliens was on this list?" "Not specifically, but have an adventure that would make a good movie was definitely on there. This qualifies." Vex'ara's communication system suddenly crackled to life. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through," she ordered, dreading what she might hear. The view screen flickered, showing the bridge of a human vessel. A woman in a military uniform appeared, looking remarkably calm for someone whose planet was under invasion. "Commander Vex'ara, this is Admiral Lisa Chen, Earth Defense Force. I understand you have one of our pilots aboard your ship." "Yes, we captured him during your failed ambush," Vex'ara said, trying to regain some semblance of authority. "Oh, Jake's fine then?" "Good, we were worried when his ship blew up, but then we figured he'd probably find a way to survive it. He's very resourceful. He infiltrated our flagship." "Yeah, that sounds like Jake. Listen, we're going to need him back. He's got dinner plans with his girlfriend tonight, and she gets cranky when he's late." Vex'ara stared at the human admiral. "Your pilot is our prisoner. We don't negotiate with primitive species." "Oh, we're not negotiating," Admiral Chen said cheerfully. "We're just letting you know that we'll be picking him up in about 10 minutes. "How do you intend to?" Her sentence was cut off by the sound of explosions somewhere deep in the ship. Alarms began blaring, and her tactical officer reported massive system failures throughout the vessel. "What's happening?" Vex'ara demanded. "It appears we're being boarded," Tell reported in a voice that suggested he was questioning his career choices. "Multiple breaches on decks 7, 12, and 15. We're impossible. Our shields are—" "Oh, about that," Jake interrupted conversationally. "I should probably mention that while you were learning about my tattoos, I was kind of studying your ship's layout. Force of habit. You guys have a really interesting security system." "What did you do?" "Well, remember how I mentioned I sometimes work as a test pilot? Part of that job involves evaluating defensive systems. You find weaknesses, report them, suggest improvements. Professional curiosity. You sabotaged our ship? I prefer to think of it as conducting an impromptu security audit. Results were not great for you guys. The bridge shuddered as more explosions echoed through the ship. Vex'ara's tactical display showed human forces moving through her vessel with impossible efficiency. How are they moving so fast? She asked. Oh, that's probably the maintenance tunnels, Jake said helpfully. Your ship has a really comprehensive ventilation system. Great for getting around without using the main corridors. You mapped our entire ship? Not the entire ship. Just the important parts. Engine room, weapons control, life support, waste management, command center. You know, the basics. In 20 minutes? I've been doing this for a while. Plus, your ship design is pretty logical. Very efficient. I like the color-coded pipe system that was really helpful. Vex'ara realized that her captured prisoner had actually been conducting reconnaissance while she'd been conducting her interrogation. You weren't captured. This was planned. Well, planned is a strong word, Jake said. I mean, the original plan was to ram your ship with my fighter and hope something interesting happened. The infiltration thing was more of an improvisation. And the other humans? Oh, they were never going to leave me here. We have a strict no-one-left-behind policy. Plus, like I said, I have dinner plans. The bridge doors suddenly exploded inward, and Vex'ara found herself face-to-face with a squad of human soldiers who moved with the casual confidence of people who'd done this sort of thing before. Hey, Jake, one of them called out. You ready to get out of here? Sure thing, Marcus. Thanks for the rescue. This is Commander Vex'ara, by the way. She's been asking about my tattoos. Cool. Nice to meet you, Commander. Sorry about the whole breaking into your ship thing, but you know how it is. Vex'ara watched in amazement as the human soldiers efficiently secured the bridge while maintaining what appeared to be a casual conversation about weekend plans and someone's birthday party. You're not even treating this like a military operation, she said. Oh, it's definitely a military operation, Marcus replied. We're just not particularly stressed about it. I mean, we've all done weirder stuff on vacation. This is impossible. No species behaves this way. Yeah, we get that a lot, Jake said as Marcus cut his restraints. You guys want to surrender now, or should we continue the impromptu ship inspection? Vex'ara looked at her tactical display, which showed human forces in control of every critical system on her flagship. Her weapons were offline, her engines were disabled, and her life support was operating at the discretion of a species that apparently treated interstellar warfare as a minor inconvenience. I surrender, she said quietly. Great, Jake said. No hard feelings, right? You guys want to stick around for pizza? We're having a little celebration back on Earth. For the first time in her military career, Commander Vex'ara of the Zephyrian Empire found herself genuinely afraid. Not of death, not of defeat, but of the implications of what she'd just witnessed. These humans didn't just survive in a hostile universe. They thrived in it. They sought out danger, embraced chaos, and somehow turned every potential disaster into an adventure. And they'd just offered to share pizza with the alien commander who'd tried to conquer their planet. 3 hours later, Vex'ara stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as human and Zephyrian engineering teams worked side by side to repair the damage from what the humans were calling the galaxy's most polite invasion. The humans had not only disabled her ship's weapons systems, but had also somehow improved the efficiency of her engines by 17%. You know, Jake said, appearing beside her with 2 cups of something that smelled suspiciously pleasant, your warp core design is pretty impressive. A few modifications and you could probably get another 20% efficiency out of it. You're giving us tactical advice? Vex'ara asked, accepting the cup. We just tried to conquer your planet. Yeah, but that was like 3 hours ago, Jake replied. Water under the bridge. Plus, Marcus thinks your ship's artificial gravity system could revolutionize our space stations. Win-win. What? Vex'ara stared at the human, her three eyes trying to process a mindset that treated attempted planetary conquest as a minor social faux pas. Your species is insane. That's what makes us fun at parties, Jake said cheerfully. Speaking of which, Admiral Chen wants to invite your whole fleet down for a barbecue tomorrow. Nothing fancy, just burgers, beer, and maybe some volleyball. Volleyball? It's a recreational activity where you hit a ball over a net. Very popular at summer gatherings. Much lower fatality rate than most of our sports. Vex'ara's communication system activated, and she found herself looking at the stern face of High Admiral Zeph Cole, Supreme Commander of the Zephyrian Empire's military forces. Commander Vex'ara, the High Admiral said, his voice carrying the weight of imperial authority, report your status immediately. High Admiral Vex'ara began, trying to figure out how to explain the last few hours. The invasion of Earth has encountered unexpected complications. Complications? You assured me this would be a simple conquest. Are you telling me these primitive humans have superior technology? Not exactly, sir. Their technology is actually quite primitive. It's more their approach to warfare that's problematic. Explain. Vex'ara glanced at Jake, who was helpfully offering technical suggestions to her engineering staff. Sir, the humans don't appear to understand that they're supposed to be afraid of us. Fear is irrelevant. Overwhelming force should ensure compliance. That's what I thought, sir. But the humans seem to treat overwhelming force as recreational stimulus. What? Like Coanet. They appear to have evolved on a planet where everything is actively trying to kill them, and instead of developing survival instincts, they developed adrenaline addiction. Commander, are you having a breakdown? Sir, I captured one of their pilots for interrogation. He has over 200 documented near-death experiences that he pursued voluntarily for entertainment purposes. The High Admiral's expression suggested he was reconsidering Vex'ara's mental fitness for command. 200? Why? He showed me his tattoos, sir. Each one represents a different survival story. Volcano surfing, shark diving, mountain climbing, storm chasing, and something called bungee jumping, where they tie a rope to their feet and jump off tall structures. For military training? For fun, sir. They do it for fun. The High Admiral stared at her for a long moment. Are you telling me that this species treats mortal danger as entertainment? Yes, sir. And when we threatened their planet, they treated it as what they call the ultimate extreme sport. The High Admiral's three eyes narrowed. That's impossible. No species could evolve such behavior and survive. Sir, their planet is classified as a Class 12 death world. The atmospheric pressure alone should crush most life forms. And yet they've developed recreational activities that make their environment even more dangerous. They have something called free solo rock climbing, where they scale vertical cliff faces without safety equipment. Why would they do that? They say it builds character, sir. Jake looked over from where he was explaining human coffee brewing techniques to a fascinated group of Zephyrian engineers. Oh, are you talking about Alex? Yeah, he's pretty mellow compared to the Mars colony volunteers. Those guys are certified crazy. Mars colony? Vex'ara asked weakly. Oh yeah. We're terraforming a planet that's basically a frozen radiation-soaked desert. The waiting list is 3 years long because everyone wants to be pioneers. The application process includes psychological evaluation to make sure you're mentally unstable enough to handle the isolation and constant mortal peril. The High Admiral's face had gone through several color changes. They have a waiting list? Sir, Vex'ara continued, I believe this species may be fundamentally incompatible with conquest. They don't respond to intimidation, because they voluntarily subjected themselves to worse conditions than anything we could impose. Furthermore, Jake added helpfully, conquest implies you want to be responsible for governing us, and trust me, nobody wants that job. We've been trying to get rid of politicians for centuries. The High Admiral looked like he was developing a headache. Commander Vex'ara, what is your current tactical assessment? Sir, I recommend we classify this species as a diplomatic curiosity and establish peaceful relations. Attempting to conquer them would be like trying to punish a masochist by inflicting pain. They're already offering to share their technology, Jake said. Dr. Peterson thinks our warp drive could be adapted for their extreme sports. Something about interdimensional base jumping. Interdimensional base jumping? The High Admiral repeated faintly. We're still working out the physics, Jake admitted. But the preliminary calculations suggest it's only moderately suicidal. Vex'ara watched her Supreme Commander struggle with the concept of a species that treated moderate suicide as an acceptable risk level. Sir, I should also mention that they've invited our entire fleet to something called a barbecue. It appears to be a social gathering involving the ritual burning of food and the consumption of fermented beverages. They want to socialize with an invasion fleet? They seem to view the invasion as a cultural exchange program, Vex'ara explained. Admiral Chen asked if we needed help with our visitor visas. Jake nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, we've got a whole first contact protocol. It's mostly about making sure visiting species don't accidentally eat something that'll kill them. We learned that lesson with the Antarans. There were other species? The High Admiral asked. Oh sure, we get maybe 3 or 4 first contacts a year. Most of them are pretty friendly once they realize we're not trying to conquer anybody. The aggressive ones usually calm down after they meet our diplomats. Your diplomats? Yeah, they're usually recruited from hostage negotiation teams, extreme sports enthusiasts, and kindergarten teachers. People who are good at dealing with irrational behavior and life-threatening situations. The High Admiral looked at Vex'ara with something approaching sympathy. Commander, I'm ordering you to accept their barbecue invitation. Gather as much intelligence as possible about their capabilities and report back. Sir, what about the invasion? The invasion is hereby reclassified as a cultural exchange mission. Try not to let them convince you to participate in any of their sports. Too late, Jake said cheerfully. We're already planning a friendly game of contact football with the Marines. Your exoskeletons should give you a real advantage. The High Admiral closed the connection without another word. Vex'ara looked at Jake, who was now sketching modifications to her ship's hull that would apparently make it more aerodynamic for atmospheric stunts. Jake? Me? Yeah? No. Are all human planets like this? Oh no, Jake said reassuringly. Earth is actually pretty tame. You should see what the folks on the mining colonies do for fun. They've got this thing called asteroid racing where they surf solar flares between planets. Vex'ara decided she needed to sit down. Don't worry, Jake continued. The barbecue will be relaxing. We'll probably just have a few fireworks, maybe some skydiving demonstrations, and if we're lucky, Johnson will bring his new submarine that he's been testing in the Mariana Trench. The Mariana Trench? Deepest part of our ocean. 11 kilometers down, crushing pressure, total darkness. Johnson thinks it's peaceful. Vex'ara realized that her species' concept of conquest was fundamentally flawed. You couldn't conquer a species that considered the deepest, most dangerous part of their planet a relaxing getaway. Jake, can I ask you something? Sure. Lanina, are you aware that most species in the galaxy consider humans to be either insane or the most dangerous warriors in known space? Jake considered this. Huh. Well, that explains why everyone's always so tense during first contact. We just figured everyone else was really uptight. And that, Vex'ara realized, was probably the most terrifying thing about humans. They weren't trying to be intimidating. This was just their normal behavior. She was definitely going to need that barbecue.